thing recording? Yeah, it is. So for those of you who don't know me, I went to school for mechanical engineering and got a job in project management. Prior to taking this career path, I used to work in various different trades, whether it be bicycle mechanic, automotive mechanic, home improvement, general contracting, stuff like that. And with this transition, I found myself sitting at a desk a lot more, answering emails, phone calls, stuff like that. And with that came a lot more sitting and less moving around. And honestly, when I'm not at work, I'm coming home here, and if I'm not working in the garage, I'm editing a video or editing a photo or browsing YouTube for content ideas, and I find myself sitting way too much. So that leads me into the purpose of this video. I'm going to convert this desk behind us into a standing desk. If you find yourself doing something similar, maybe this will help you out. I hope it does. If you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. So getting into it, over the course of the past few years, I've created a pretty nice home office space for when my employer had us working from home and a comfortable place to work when I started this YouTube channel. I'll include the links to all the items on the desk in the description below, so if you want to find any of them, you'll find it down there. For this conversion, I decided to go with the Top Sky dual motor desk frame in black. This model had great reviews, and the dual motor added a little bit of payload capacity to the desk. Being that I built the desktop 2 years ago and it's still in great shape, I decided to reuse that portion. Honestly, during the unboxing, I was super impressed with the quality of the packaging. The corners were reinforced with plywood, and everything was secured tightly in place with foam. Definitely very impressive considering the relatively low price compared to the other options out there. With all the components out of the box, it was time to start the assembly process. The directions were clear and concise, and the components seemed to be made really well. I started by assembling the cross braces between the two legs, making sure to leave all the screws slightly loose to allow the bolt holes to line up easier later on. With those assembled, I attached the cross braces to the legs of the desk with the provided hardware. And they actually provided these great little plastic guides to make it lining everything up a little bit easier. With the two legs connected together, I added the two support angles that will serve as the main mounting point for the desktop. And with that out of the way, I installed the feet and flipped the desk frame into the upright position. Now that the frame is all assembled, I moved on to connecting the motors with the supplied wiring. You can configure the controller on whichever side of the desk you want by flipping the extension wiring harness to either motor. I felt I was more comfortable with it on the right, but you could definitely put it on the left as well. Next up, I plugged the power supply into the wall and checked to make sure everything was working, and it was, so we're good to go on to the next step. I was definitely very impressed with how quiet the motors were and how smooth the desk went up and down. I was excited to see if it would perform the same way once all the weight was on top of it. Getting back to the existing setup, I started by removing my mic and all the peripherals from my desk and unplugged all the power adapters from the existing power supply. And I also moved the PC to my garage for cleaning later on. Now that everything was cleared off the desk, I removed the old legs from the desktop and leaned the desktop up against the wall. I decided to save the old legs and maybe reuse them for a future project. With the new frame moved in, I placed the desktop back on top and measured to make sure everything was even front to back and left to right. The center of the cross brace is actually adjustable, and if your desktop is narrower or wider, you can adjust during assembly to determine the right width. I didn't end up using the supplied mounting screws because my top was a little bit twisted, but for most applications, these should be fine. One of the main upgrades I wanted to make, although minor, was to change from an old style power strip to a new style one with USB ports to minimize the amount of power adapters under the desk. I ended up picking one up from a company called Trond. They're sold on Amazon and have great reviews. Beyond the USB ports, the mounting ears on this type of power supply made it very easy to attach under the desk. Next up, I mounted the controller off to the right side of the desk in order to keep it out of the way of my chair's armrest when in the seated position, and reconnected the wires and gave it another test to be sure it was still functioning. One of my least favorite parts of the original desk was all the cables that were routed underneath. In order to keep everything in order, I used these cable trays that stick to the underside of the desk. Shout out to my buddy AJ for hooking me up with these, as he had an extra set that he ordered by mistake. If you want to watch some great automotive detailing content, definitely check out his channel. I'll link it in the description below. Shifting gears a little bit, I moved to the garage to clean my PC. I've had this computer for about a year now, and I couldn't be happier. I'll put the specs on the screen for anyone interested, but anyway, I noticed it had been getting pretty dusty, so I thought it was a good time to blow it all out. I could not believe how much dust was trapped inside the power supply filter, radiators, and fan. I mainly use compressed air in short bursts to clean it. If you use compressed air, be sure to do it in short bursts, as it can build up static electricity and damage components. After cleaning the PC, I placed it back on the new desk and reinstalled all the components and peripherals. With everything reassembled, it was time to try it out. Honestly, I never worked at a standing desk before, but I think it's a really great addition. It's nice to have the option to stand up and stretch for a while working, rather than being stuck in a desk chair. So, I hope you guys liked this video. If you're on the fence about getting a standing desk, I can definitely say I recommend one. If you're not already, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.